Hello everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelava, and this is Speedplay France and Stellaris number 5. We left off having conquered 2 of our local neighbors. They are now glorious parts of the French Republic, or French Empire in space. We are doing fairly well. We've gone ahead and opened up an entire new section of the galaxy for our intrepid explorers to go and intrepidly explore, I guess we'll say. To bravely go. At any rate, we can now build robots, so we do go ahead and build a robot. We have some human colonizers on quite a few planets, and realistically we might be able to actually peacefully expand for a little bit. We can also expand the size of our wormholes and their distance and range, which means we won't just be stuck on this arm of the galactic just spiral which we're already on. We might be able to actually go to other galactic arms and really just expand our influence tremendously from there. This is really one of the few moments we've had of actually decent chances at peace. You'll notice we are just spam producing ships, and that's because the best way to be at peace is being prepared for war. I am still spamming corvettes, although they did make it so that that isn't actually the end-all be-all of strategies. The reason for doing so is more mundane than anything. It's simply because we don't have the infrastructure to build larger ships at this point. So since we don't have the infrastructure, we're just going to keep spamming all these smaller ships. And while we do know of various alien species and empires, they're all more or less far away, which is pretty much where I want them to be. We also have a few of these aliens not enslaved, which I believe is not entirely a new thing. However, it's still a happy difference than all of the other aliens, which are just more or less always upset with being under our control, since we just happen to roll in, bombard their planets from orbit, and then conquer and enslave them for years and years. Which, I mean, I guess you could make an argument is understandable, but let's not make that argument. At any rate, we are trying to transfer for energy, get a decent amount. It looks as though we actually can do that nowadays, which is great, but a little unfortunate. We do transfer our energy to them, actually, in order that we might actually, get metals, which we really desperately need at this point. And it's actually working fairly well, surprisingly or not. We have neighbors who are willing to trade with us. If we so desire, it seems as though it might be a good time. There we go, Galactic Administration. We can even build up our infrastructure on our worlds a little bit better. I was about to say, it might be a good time for us to focus more internally. We have a budding just interplanetary coalition. We could even go become a star empire, maybe even a mega corporation, although I think becoming corporate would be a little bit too much of a leap for our government, and we don't also have the influence to go ahead and make that switch. We do instead build a planetary or interplanetary capital complex, which takes quite a bit of our influence, basically all of it, and we battle various alien menaces throughout rough patches of singularities in our more or less new zone of control. Now, I know that that wasn't actually within our borders. However, I usually just treat our borders as anywhere our ships can actually reach, which is a much more, let's just say, ambitious set of borders than otherwise. We also still have quite a few science ships, so we can hopefully go and explore all of these crazy new worlds, and maybe even buy some star charts from a few various peoples, although perhaps not as well. We are also building more facilities, building more robots. We have tons of energy. We can even build some monuments to purity on our various planets, which just increase happiness a little bit. And we really should increase the happiness of our people a little bit. A lot of them are slaves. Just saying, a lot of them are slaves. A lot of them are going to still be slaves pretty much forever. However, if we get enough buildings for happiness, we might even be able to unenslave some peoples, and maybe eventually get them to be functioning members of our society. Maybe eventually trust them with equality. At any rate, some areas already have that. and our monument to purity is doing decently well. And anyone who is not ideologically on our side enough will just end up being enslaved again. We also went to go colonize a world only to discover that it would cost something like 119 influence for us to go and do that. I forgot that they had changed it to include influence in the cost of colonization, so that was a little bit worrying. Meanwhile, we've discovered a new alien race which is significantly closer, and it doesn't actually cost us influence to go and take all of their lands and just kind of ravage their countryside. So, admittedly, we might end up just getting pulled back into our old methods, since they are equivalent to us. We can also go ahead and trade them our star charts, and really make some potentially bad long-term deals with them, in order that once we go and attack them, it more or less just figures itself out. Essentially meaning, like, if we trade them access to our science in exchange for a lot of money up front, then sure, long term that would have the effect of making them more advanced than we are, as they would have all of our technologies plus, you know, a few of their own. However, if we then use the money that they give us up front to just roll on over and conquer them, then it really doesn't matter what kind of long-term benefits they have. We also do go ahead and begin this colonization effort, expanding our borders significantly. It does put us in an energy deficit, which we have long avoided and sought to avoid ever since we ran out entirely. However, I don't really think that's too much of a concern. So there we go. We can give them a research agreement, and in exchange get a ton of metal and star charts. And there we go. Just like that, we've also managed to get better wormholes. We can even start building observatories. They kind of hate us. However, we can also now build up our space infrastructure since we have the materials to do so, and then start building heavier ships to go in and just take their worlds from them. And who cares about the long-term consequences of our actions, because in the short term we will overwhelm them. We also go ahead and readjust slavery on this world, putting a lot of people, really just entrusting them with their freedom. Sure, there are some dissident elements who are essentially in something or other akin to gulags, but you know, that's just what it has to be. It is actually kind of strikingly similar to the Soviet Union in the sense that slavery is more or less a tool of political control more than it is a tool, you know, for resources and other things. There's also some primitives, which means there's a new territory that we can basically colonize without effort, just by sending over one of our wholesome army groups to go and uplift them. And at any rate, we go ahead and just construct more facilities, more ships. We're building destroyers now, which is fantastic. They seem to be much, much better than the units we've currently been building, or previously been building. We can also get even better power plants, which we really need. And there we go. We have destroyed the Xenos. They don't really like us all that much right now, so we do go ahead and just build some new facilities, build some robots, and I'm not sure if we just enslaved them or if I forgot to. At any rate, hopefully they're enslaved. We do go ahead and create a new republic for them to just kind of be themselves in, more or less within the auspices of the French Empire. And eventually, if they were enslaved, they'll find happiness, or at least find their place in our system, and we'll be able to unenslave them and let them just do their thing generally. That is at least the goal. We are dealing with a lot of slaves trying to get emancipation and things along those lines. That is a bit of a worry. Admittedly, the only negative event I've seen thus far from the emancipation faction and all these groups upset about slavery, also worryingly, we are no longer the largest, most expansive population of species in the galaxy. Humanity is falling behind since we haven't been colonizing many worlds. We've just been, well, enslaving other peoples. So we're becoming a plurality within our own empire, which means we need, one, to get enough influence that we can colonize new worlds, and two, we need to secure enough of the galaxy so that we can have enough habitable worlds within our sphere of influence for us to then go and colonize. So that's going to be a long-term concern. We can't really just become a smaller and smaller faction within our own empire, otherwise we'll eventually drown our own voice out. And anyways, this is what I'm talking about. The interstellar, basically, galactic underground railroad. We did unfortunately have to go and enslave all these people again, since they are not happy enough to be free. But yeah, so that's the concern. The Galactic Underground Railroad, or however it's called, has really, it's okay because all it does is get people who don't want to be part of the French Empire out of the French Empire without us having to purge them. And ultimately that is our goal, to replace all dissident elements either as slaves or just push them out while still controlling their planets and things. We also do go ahead and prepare our war. We're going to get even more peoples into the Empire. However, that comes next time. Sorry I've been so bad about releasing these. Have a great day. Thank you very much for subscribing. I'll get better about that.